History is a mirror that only reflects what survives. But some truths were buried too deep, sealed beneath centuries of silence and politics. This is the story of one such truth, forgotten beneath the heart of America. The Atlantic Codex. The rain was falling hard over Washington, D.C. when Dr. Aaron Lyle found the letter that would destroy his career. It was supposed to be another quiet evening in the Library of Congress, one more night cataloging dusty naval maps from the 18th century. But fate rarely asks permission. Between two brittle sheets of a colonial trade chart, he discovered something strange. A slip of parchment that didn't belong to any American record. It was written in Latin, dated 1531, and sealed with a wax crest that bore the image of a serpent coiled around a cross, an emblem no one in the modern world had ever seen before. At the bottom, a single phrase was scrolled in English in handwriting that was undeniably old yet disturbingly clear. The Atlantic hides what Rome could not burn. Aaron stared at the note for almost an hour before realizing what it meant. If this letter was authentic, it suggested that an entire secret voyage had reached the American coast almost a century before Columbus's so-called discovery. And it wasn't Viking, it wasn't Chinese, it was Roman. Chapter 1. The Letter That Shouldn't Exist. Aaron was not a conspiracy theorist. He had spent 15 years dismissing pseudo-history online, calling it the plague of modern academia. But tonight, the plague was staring back at him under a fluorescent lamp, written in ink that still glowed faintly from ancient carbon. He ran tests the next morning. The ink matched no modern compound. The parchment dated accurately to the early 1500s. But the most shocking part wasn't its age, it was its origin. Under ultraviolet light, a faint watermark appeared. Archivum Vaticani, Classi Obscura. The Vatican's forbidden archives. The section officially denied to exist. That night, Aaron didn't sleep. By dawn, he had booked a flight to Rome. Chapter 2. The Vatican and the Map. Vatican City was quieter than he expected. The air smelled of rain and old incense. Inside the Apostolic Library, Aaron met an elderly archivist named Father Bellori. Thin, spectacled, and too calm for a man who clearly knew too much. "You found the Lancia Codex," Bellori said, without even looking up. "It was never meant to be read." Aaron froze. "You know about it?" "Everyone who studies forbidden history knows of it, but no one's supposed to find it." The priest led him to an underground chamber lined with centuries of locked manuscripts. In the center sat a single glass case. Empty, except for a shadow mark where something had once rested. The codex was stolen in 1942 by an American soldier stationed in Sicily. It disappeared after the war. You found a piece of it. Aaron leaned closer. What did it contain? The priest hesitated, then whispered, "A map." Chapter 3. The Map of the Fifth Shore. When Aaron unfolded the recovered chart beneath magnification, he realized it wasn't depicting Europe or Africa at all. It was the Atlantic, but with an unfamiliar landmass stretching between the Caribbean and Bermuda. At first he thought it was a fantasy edition, like the mythical Antilia of medieval legend. But the coordinates matched something impossible. The landmass was directly beneath the modern Sargasso Sea. He compared the sketch to NASA's ocean floor scans. Beneath those exact coordinates, there was a cluster of unexplained geometric ridges, too symmetrical to be natural. If the codex was right, someone not only reached the Americas before Columbus, but had built something there. Something that had been buried by time and water. Chapter 4. Operation Neptune. 2 weeks later, Aaron was contacted by a woman claiming to work for the Smithsonian's Division of Historical Maritime Studies, a department that, as he later found out, did not exist. Her name was Elena Marquez, and she spoke like someone used to giving orders. "Dr. Lyle," she said over the phone, "we've been following your research. We believe the codex references what the Navy once called Project Neptune." Aaron frowned. "I've never heard of it." "You wouldn't. It was declassified and erased in the same year, 1978. Officially, it was a sonar mapping mission in the Atlantic. Unofficially, they found something." She sent him a single photograph. It showed a massive stone archway under 3,000 feet of water, covered in inscriptions no modern language could read. "We believe the Romans called it Porta Occulta, the Hidden Gate." Chapter 5. Beneath the Sargasso. A month later, Aaron found himself aboard the research vessel Argo II, 400 miles east of Bermuda. The crew was minimal: 6 scientists, 2 divers, 1 security officer, and the hum of classified equipment. As they lowered the submersible drone, the sonar screen flickered, then froze. A perfect circular shape appeared, 50 meters wide. "That's not coral," Elena said quietly. They descended. At 2870 feet, the camera lights pierced the abyss and revealed something that defied history. A stone plaza, carved in Greco-Roman style, with columns, archways, and mosaics depicting ships sailing west under twin suns. At the center of the plaza stood a colossal statue of a figure wearing a laurel crown, pointing towards the surface. The inscription below read, "Imperium Transoceanum," the empire beyond the ocean. Aaron whispered, "My God, they really came here." And that was only the beginning. What they would soon uncover would challenge not only the origin of America, but the entire definition of human civilization itself.
Chapter 6. The Empire That Shouldn't Exist. The dive log recorded their descent at 14:23 hours. The moment the submersible touched the seabed, all chatter on the comms stopped. It wasn't fear, it was disbelief. The sonar had revealed what looked like a full architectural grid, a sunken city the size of Lower Manhattan. Aaron pressed his headset tighter. "Elena, are you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it, and I'm trying very hard not to panic," she replied, her voice low. The high-definition feed flickered as the drone's light scanned the ruins. Broken columns lay half-buried in silt. Wide stone roads stretched into the darkness. But what struck Aaron most was the symmetry, the precision. Every street crossed another at a perfect 90-degree angle, like the grid of a modern city. No Roman settlement ever looked like this. And yet, carved into the marble of one archway, clear as day, was a Latin inscription. Civitas Lucis, the City of Light. Elena leaned closer to the monitor. "That name appears nowhere in Roman records. Nothing. It's like they built a city they didn't want anyone to know existed." Aaron's mind was racing. Unless someone erased it. The Mosaic Chamber. 2 divers, Mitchell and Vega, descended with cameras to explore the nearest structure. The entryway led to a massive hall lined with frescoes. Despite 3,000 years underwater, the paintings were shockingly intact. One wall showed Roman ships sailing across a vast ocean, carrying what appeared to be Egyptian obelisks. Another depicted dark-skinned and copper-skinned people exchanging gold and fruit, with soldiers wearing laurel crowns. "Trade?" Elena whispered. "They made contact with the Americas." Aaron pointed at a section in the lower right corner. The Latin caption beneath the figures read, "Fructus novus, terra incognita occidens." New fruits, the unknown western land. He felt dizzy. That phrase had been used centuries later by Spanish explorers, almost word for word. The Romans had been here first. The seal of silence. Then Mitchell's camera caught something else. A bronze door, half collapsed, but still sealed with a circular metal plate. The emblem on it was unmistakable. A serpent coiled around a cross, identical to the wax seal on the letter Aaron had found in the Library of Congress. "Oh God, it's the same symbol, the same one from the Codex." Vega tried to clear the silt. Beneath the serpent, another word appeared. Exilium. "It means exile," Elena translated. Aaron frowned. Or, the place of those exiled. The divers tried to pry the plate loose, but before they could, the sonar screen pulsed with static. A tremor rippled through the water. The feed cut out. "We're losing signal!" shouted the technician. For a few seconds, the monitors went black. When the feed returned, both divers were gone. The lost feed. Hours passed. No trace. The oxygen monitors for both suits flatlined simultaneously at 2103. The submarine was recalled. All they found was one broken camera drifting near the sea floor. Aaron watched the recovered footage in silence. It was only 30 seconds, but enough to freeze every man on deck. The video showed Vega shining his flashlight at the bronze door as it finally cracked open. A rush of bubbles erupted, and for a single frame, something massive moved in the darkness behind it. Not machinery, not an animal, something shaped like a human silhouette, but far too large, gliding past with unnatural smoothness. Then the camera cut to static. The Vatican's call. 3 days later, while Argo 2 remained under investigation, Aaron received a coded message through a secure satellite link. The sender ID was encrypted, but the first line gave it away. The Lancia Codex was not meant to be opened. Return to Rome. They are already watching. It was signed F. Bellori. Elena read it over his shoulder. So the Vatican knew this would happen. They knew what was down there, Aaron muttered. They just never told anyone. He looked back at the map, at the coordinates, the ruins, the truth no one would believe. Every question led to one impossible conclusion. The Roman Empire had crossed the Atlantic, and they hadn't disappeared, they'd hidden. Chapter 7. The Shadow Network. Rome, present day. The marble corridors of the Vatican's Archivium Oscurum smelled faintly of dust and ink. Father Bellori led Aaron and Elena through a series of iron gates, deeper than any public visitor had ever gone. He stopped before a vault marked only by a golden serpent cross emblem. Well, long before Columbus, Bellori began softly, a Roman fleet under General Marcus Lancia sailed west, following the currents described by Carthaginian traders. They sought a refuge, a place where the empire could survive in secret if Rome fell. "You're saying they built a second empire," Elena said. "They called it Novus Imperium Occidens, the new empire of the West. But when the church learned of it, they condemned it as heresy. The survivors swore an oath to erase all record of their existence." He stopped before a vault marked only by a golden serpent cross emblem. "But some of us kept their secrets." Inside the vault were hundreds of scrolls preserved behind glass, maps of oceans that didn't exist on any atlas, descriptions of lands filled with strange flora and beasts, and one object that made Aaron's pulse stop, a golden tablet etched with both Latin and Mayan glyphs. This can't be real," he whispered. "It is," Bellori said. "The Codex was never one document. It was a message left by those who returned from the New World. They warned of something sleeping beneath the ocean, something they called the guardians of Exilium. Guardians? You mean statues? No, Bilori said quietly. Something alive. Chapter 8. The Awakening. 2 months later, the U.S. Navy issued a classified notice that all civilian research in the Sargasso Sea was suspended due to seismic instability. Unofficially, satellite data showed energy surges emanating from the coordinates of Civitas Lucis. Aaron and Elena, now under discreet observation, managed to intercept one encrypted data stream, a real-time sonar image showing movement beneath the ruins. Something was waking up. The image showed enormous structures shifting beneath layers of sediment, releasing plumes of gas. The readings were biological. Heartbeat-like pulses reverberated through the ocean floor. If the Romans built the city around that thing, Aaron whispered, maybe it wasn't a temple. Maybe it was a prison. Chapter 9. The Return. In the following weeks, unmarked ships began appearing across the Atlantic. Vessels with no flags, transmitting no identification. Fishermen off Bermuda reported strange glowing currents. Instruments failed. Compasses spun wildly. And then, one stormy night, the water off the coast of Nova Scotia glowed faintly red. The satellites caught it. The same serpent cross symbol forming in bioluminescent lines across 20 miles of ocean. They're back, Elena said, whoever or whatever was exiled. Aaron stared at the monitor, his hands trembling. The words from the codex echoed in his mind. The Atlantic hides what Rome could not burn. Maybe the Romans hadn't fled west to build a new empire. Maybe they had gone west to seal something away, something the world was never meant to find again.
Chapter 10. The Scroll of Exilium. The Vatican's inner archives had always been silent, but tonight the silence felt like pressure, thick and watchful. Father Bilori placed a single scroll before Aaron and Elena on the marble table, its surface brittle and yellowed with time. This, he said, is the Scroll of Exilium. It was written by the last surviving member of the Lancia expedition. The parchment was sealed with a wax serpent cross, identical to the ones found underwater. Bilori hesitated before breaking it. Inside, the ink had faded to a deep rust color. The Latin text was sharp but elegant, almost modern. Aaron translated aloud, slowly. We reached the shore of the Western Ocean and found a land of warmth and thunder. But the sea roared from beneath, and a voice spoke from the deep. I was here before your gods were named. A voice? Elena frowned. A myth, perhaps, Bilori murmured. But myths often hide history. Aaron continued reading. We built walls above the trembling ground. We called it Civitas Lucis, the city of light. But what we sealed below we named Exilium, the place of banishment. For there dwells that which devours memory. He stopped. Devours memory? A metaphor? Elena asked. Maybe not, Bilori said quietly. We believe the Romans encountered a phenomenon beneath the sea, a form of energy or intelligence, something that altered perception. When they returned, they could no longer remember portions of their own lives. Aaron's pulse quickened. So the ruins were built to contain it. To contain, Bilori noted, and to forget. Chapter 11. The Mind Archives. Back in Washington, Aaron visited the Smithsonian's restricted anthropology vaults. Elena had arranged clearance under a different name. They found what Bilori had hinted at, neurological records from a declassified naval study in 1978. Operation Neptune. The data logs were disturbing. Divers reported temporal disorientation. Several lost memory spanning days. One officer wrote,
voices in the static, like Latin underwater. They heard it too, Elena whispered. Among the recovered artifacts from the Neptune dive was a stone fragment, carved in Latin but partially fused with coral. The text, decoded by Aaron, read, "We are the keepers of Exilium. We remember so that the world can forget." Elena stared at it. So someone kept guarding that place for centuries? Or something, Aaron said. Chapter 13, The Vanishing Files. 2 nights later, Aaron returned to his apartment to find his research drives wiped clean. No codex scans, no sonar data, no field notes. His paper notes were intact, but every digital record was gone. He called Elena. "Did you back up the files?" "Yes, 3 times," she said, "and they all vanished. Even the paper copies I scanned, erased." "That's not a hacker," Aaron said. "That's systemic deletion." They drove to Georgetown to meet a retired NSA technician who had once handled data retrieval projects. When he saw the metadata logs, his face turned pale. "These weren't deleted," he said. "They were rewritten, as if they never existed." "Can that even be done?" Elena asked. "Only if someone controls the core memory of the National Archive servers. But that's impossible, unless it's an inside job, or unless it's something rewriting you." He hesitated, then added, "Or unless it's something rewriting you." Chapter 14, The Recovered Memory. The next morning, Aaron woke up with a nosebleed and a vivid recollection of a dream. A massive underwater gate opening, light spilling out like molten gold, and a shadowed figure whispering in Latin, "Memoria tua est nostra." "Your memory is ours." He wrote it down before it faded. Later that day, Elena brought new intel from Bellori. The Vatican had recovered another scroll fragment, this time not in Latin, but in an unknown hybrid of Phoenician and early Latin script. Its translation was partially deciphered. "When the sea speaks, the empire forgets." Aaron looked at her. "They built a prison for a voice." "Or an idea," Elena said. "Something that can't die, because it isn't alive." Chapter 15, The Message Beneath the Sea. An unmarked cargo vessel, the Vigilant, departed from a restricted naval port near Charleston under the cover of night. On board were Aaron, Elena, and a small team of researchers authorized under a Black Project codename, Atlas Deep. Their mission was to re-enter the ruins of Civitas Lucis. This time they carried new tech, quantum imaging scanners capable of reading residual electromagnetic fields. At precisely 0317, as the submarine crossed 2,000 feet, their instruments began detecting rhythmic pulses, identical to human brainwave patterns, but emanating from the stone itself. "The whole city's transmitting," Elena said. "It's alive." Aaron stared at the sonar display. Within the geometric grid of ruins, one signal pulsed brighter than the others, directly beneath the bronze door marked Exilium. "We open that," he said, "and we find the truth." The drone's arms began clearing the debris. And then, just before contact, the pulse stopped. A voice crackled through their comms, not through radio frequency, but through the submarine's metal hull itself. "Custodes, advertete." Keepers, turn away. The instruments failed, the lights went black, and for a moment, through the darkness, they saw it. The faint outline of colossal eyes opening beneath the stone.